Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all the honor and glory to Yahweh, Hashem Yahushua. And I believe this video is entitled Prophecy. And I just got a few videos, dealing with, the different things that's going on in the world and how close we are to the end, how the Most High is speeding things up. And so, this first video is dealing with how the government plans on putting more policing in the black communities. Supposedly, the decree went out from so-called black communities saying that they want more policing now. The crime is intensifying in their communities. So for Trump, he's licking his chops when he hears something like this, because at the end of the day, his goal is to hurt and harm the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, as we see right now, with the deportation and, ICE taking all the migrants and immigrants to, back home. Some of them aren't even going back home. He's releasing them into, prisons and places that aren't even their home. So with this idea how, he plans on policing the black community, he wants to get rid of what's the word I'm looking for? I'll just say this: policing is going to be intense. How it was back in the 70s and 80s, where they were banging so-called black men heads against the pavement, and what they were doing, things like what they were doing to Rodney King, and just treating us like savages. And Trump wants to do this to our people, to our young men, to our so-called young black men, and he wants it to where you can't even, sue. No type of litigation, no type of right as to where, hey, I get my eye busted, I was arrested wrongfully or unjustly, stop and frisk. That's going to be implemented. And so this is going to cause a lot of tension within the so-called black community. We're going to start this video and, kind of pull out some scriptures as well.
25. Donald Trump released an executive order that is extremely problematic for the African American community, especially African American men. It is an executive order that essentially unleashes cops on black men. It is horrible. And I told you it was coming. I told you it. Who bashed Kamala Harris and supported Donald Trump is going to pay a price, because this executive order is awful.
Yo, these were sold out everywhere. But then
and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens. That sounds so good, protecting innocent citizens, right? Sounds so good. Clean up the streets, protect the innocent. But that is not what this is about. What he's doing in this executive order is really not even necessary.
See if I can speed this up a little bit.
Because violent crime has been decreasing since 1990. Why all the law enforcement if violent crime is coming down from a peak around the 90s? Why these guys if violent crime is coming down? Why send those menacing Police
Hey, they look like they're ready to kill Jake, man. They look like they're ready to destroy Jake. Look at them. Look at those Edomites.
officers
Look
with
at
their AK-47s
look at these Edomites, man. Come on, you think they coming? You think they coming to to protect and serve? You think they coming with peace, trying to break up fights? No, man. One wrong move, man. These men are ready to blow your head off, man. Look at these guns, man. These ain't regular guns. We got damn snipers at the top of the guns, scopes on the top of these guns. Hey, man, it's about to get ugly for you Jakes, man. That like to, stay out all night and, bang blocks and kill each other.
or AR-15s or whatever they have there. Why send them into the hood when violent crime is sharply coming down?
And this is going to start off a civil war. Ultimately civil war, race wars, riots, protesting. All these things. This is going on right now, but these things are about to increase and intensify. As the days, moving forward.
Now, you heard me say, he's sending them primarily to the hood. So how do I know? Because he said so. He said so when he visited that Detroit church while he was on the camping trail. Let's listen to what he says.
We'll bring back public safety and defend our communities for law-abiding American citizens. Look, the crime is most rampant right here and in African-American communities, and more people see me and they say, sir, we want protection. We want police to protect us. We don't want to get robbed and mugged and beat up or killed because we want to walk across the street to buy a loaf of bread. They want it so badly. The fake news doesn't talk about it. But the black population wants law enforcement more than any other population. So I think it's an important thing to say.
So there you have it. He said two things in that clip. One, he says that most of the crime is committed in the African-American community. And he also said that he has been begged by black people to send those guys in. Right? That's what he said. So he's going to send them in, these guys, yet at the same time, violent crime is white people. Let's go look at it. Now here it is. Strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminal, protect innocent citizens. And might I point out, he uses the word unleashing. Unleashing. All right, so let's scroll here and read this. By the authority invested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, purpose and policy. Safe communities rely on the backbone and heroism of tough and well-equipped police force. Tough and well-equipped. Those words are in there for a purpose. My administration is steadfastly committed to empowering state and local law enforcement to firmly, I want you to see all the hyperbolic words he used to drive his point home. To firmly, he's trying to make the point. I'm not playing around. I'm not playing around with you folks. Firmly police dangerous criminal behavior in innocent citizens. When local leaders demonize law enforcement and impose legal and political handcuffs that make aggressively enforcing the law impossible, so he wants the law enforced aggressively on some of you same folks who voted for him, who supported him, who dragged Kamala Harris, talking about her prosecutorial record. Well, now you're getting ready to really deal with some stuff. And when he talks about when local leaders demonize law enforcement and impose legal and political handcuffs.
This is the quickest way to clear out stuck poop.
I have to poop, but it feels stuck. Stop! Are you...
Basically, forget any sort of police reform. Forget any kind of prosecutorial reform, as far as he has anything to do with it. He says, my administration, therefore, establish best practices at the state and local level. What kind of best practices do you think he's talking about? What kind of best practices do you think he's talking about? I'll show you one of them. Watch this.
Joe Biden and the defund the police Democrats have turned our once great cities into cesspools of bloodshed and crime. There's never been anything like it. Here's my plan to restore law and order in our cities and throughout our country, frankly. First, because police forces have been gutted by Democrats' war on police, I will sign a record investment in hiring, retention, and training for police officers nationwide. So important. This bill will also increase vital protections for officers because the Democrats want to take those protections away from our police because we want them to do their jobs right. You can't take their protections away if you're going to have them do their jobs properly. Second, to qualify for this new funding and all other Justice Department grants, I will insist that local jurisdictions return to proven common sense policing measures, such as stop and frisk.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Stop and frisk.
Stop and frisk. Stop and frisk. Man, I made a few videos talking about what was coming if he was reelected. And stop and frisk is not all that's coming. No, that's just one. That's just one of the things that he has in mind. Okay, let's go back now and finish reading this executive order. So he goes on to say, establish best practices at the state and local level for cities to unleash high-impact local police forces. You say, well, how can he do that? He's over the federal government. Because of the money, the federal funding that he controls. These local law enforcement departments, and there are a bunch of them, 18,000 or so across the country, they depend on federal funding. And he's going to condition that federal funding on them implementing these policies, these so-called best practices. So that's how he's going to do it. So it goes on to say, and local level for the cities to unleash high-impact local police forces, protect and defend law enforcement officers wrongly accused and abused by state or local officials. Now, tell you exactly what that means. That means that he wants to stop all this holding police accountable for the stuff they do to African-American men. Stop all these lawsuits, all this litigation. Because in his mind, they're just doing their job. So what? They bang a few heads. So what? They violate the Constitution. So what? They kill innocent, unarmed black men. So what? They're doing their jobs. All right? I'm helping you read between the line of this.
See that he said you want to stop all that litigation, so you won't be able to sue the police. All that black all that police reform they was doing when what's my man's name, George Floyd. You know, they had a big police reform, how to train police all over again because of how they had his knee on his neck, and that whole protocol was off. So they had police reform for that. Now they're talking about throwing that out and just basically it's going to be a free fall. And so this is what the so-called black community, they want more policing. Trump said, okay, you want more policing? All right, I'm just going to unleash these race cops on y'all to kill y'all.
Yes, read between the lines. My administration will work to ensure that law enforcement officers across America focus on ending crime. Watch this. Not pursuing harmful, illegal race and sex-based equity policies. Man, Trump hates equity, equality. He hates it. So he says if he has anything to do with it, cops are not going to be out there thinking about whether what they're about to do is equitable, if they're treating people right or wrong. In other words, he's going to make sure that they're not thinking about civil rights and trying to treat people with respect and all that.
See, they're not talking about it. See, like I was just saying, they don't care about your civil rights. Hey, your rights are about to be taken away in a couple of years. Your freedom of speech, your gun, all these type of laws, they're about to strip them. The first 3 amendments or the Bill of Rights, wherever that is, they're trying to take your freedom of speech away, and that's Amos 8 and 11. And so we're seeing all of these things, that's about to happen. Let's put a quick precept real quick. Let's get a couple precepts. Second address, I think it's 15 and 15. That's why it's very important, man, that, pay attention to what's going on in this world. All right, so this is second address 15 and 15. But the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. Right? That's what's going to happen when these police officers start over policing and start, just how they was doing to Rodney King and George Floyd, just start banging batons and guns over their heads, or stopping and frisking, and for whatever they want to do, it's going to be a free fall. It's going to be like a purge, and it's going to be a civil war. It's going to be a sedition. There's going to be people turning against the government. It says, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. Those are race wars. It says, for there shall be sedition among men, people revolting and going against the government, against his laws, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. See that? I think Trump just had something recently. They had some type of parade around his birthday. Said no King's Day. Look at this. It says, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings. See that? Nor princes. And hey, these riots and protests ain't just going on in the United States, man. ultimately Babylon is going to be the last place where everything starts to um, happen. But you're starting to see it. Some of these protests with the migrants and the uproars of the people. You're starting to see that already. But a lot of that already started and kicked off in places like China and France. Uh, where else? I heard protests in like there's many other countries. But Babylon, at the end of the day, is going to be the last time. It says, "No prince, and the course of their action shall stand in their power." And this is what's going to happen at the end. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able to. So you feeling or you thinking that you can go to different cities now, and they about to cut all of that out. They're gonna make it as to where what they call these 15-minute cities, and basically they're gonna have everything you need within a 15 or 20. Or I say this a 20 to 25 mile radius, and it's all about control. It's all about limiting your resources and controlling what you eat, what you watch, what you think, what you drink. Hey, everything you consume is going to be predicated upon what these devils want you to. Look at 2 Ezra chapter 16, verse 7. It says, "For there shall be in every place in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord." And so this is for the men of the Lord. They're going to be, there's going to be insurrections. They already had an insurrection on January 6th when they stormed the Capitol building. Right, so, these things are, again, they're going to increase and start to get worse and worse and worse by the year. And so it's going to come to a point where people are going to be, your next door neighbor who you thought was cool, you cut your grass for you, you wash your house or your crib while you was when you and your family went out of town on vacation. Hey, that man is going to be, trying to, break in your house when there's no more food, when there's a famine, when there's no more water, when they put a stoppage on things, when they monitor what you can eat, drink, where you can go, and what you can watch. I'm going to read verse 71 again. They shall be like madmen, sparing none. That goes for these, race cops too. That goes for, when martial law kicks off, when National Guard comes in. Yeah, they're going to be trying to hem up the men of the Lord. Right? And the men of the Lord are, they're going to be taken away to, these concentration camps. Some of us might, be like as pilgrims on the earth. But know that at the end of the day, these things, these perils are already starting to happen and kick off. But it just hasn't reached a level as to where there's not a significant amount of bear with me, where there's any type of panic right now.
He wants them out there, as he said, ending crime and not being concerned and bothered with illegal race and sex-based equity policies. The result will be a law-abiding society in which tenacious, when I hear somebody talk about tenacious law enforcement as an attorney, as a civil rights and criminal defense lawyer, I imagine them kicking in doors, banging heads.
See that? That's what I was just saying. That's what the prophets tell you. They're going to be like madmen, sparing none.
I imagine them throwing people to the sidewalk, smashing their heads into the cement. That's what I hear, because that's exactly what I see. As a civil rights and criminal defense attorney who represent mostly black people and especially young, middle-aged, and older black men. I told you this was coming. I told you. Tenacious law enforcement officers protect the innocent. Violations of law are not tolerated, and American communities are safely enjoyed by all their citizens again. Now, let me say this. Who doesn't want safe neighborhoods? We all want safe neighborhoods. I want my neighborhood safe. You want your neighborhood safe. So to the degree that we're getting safe neighborhoods, that's great. We're already seeing.
Tesla is finished.
Come on, man.
Elon has failed. That is what they want you to believe. But tech expert Jeff Brown
seeing a drastic decrease in violent crime. Section 2, he goes on to say, the Attorney General shall take all appropriate action to create a mechanism to provide legal resources and indemnification to law enforcement officers who unjustly incur expenses and liabilities for actions taken during the performance of their official duties to enforce the law. This mechanism shall include the use of private sector pro bono assistance. Private sector pro bono assistance. Where do you think that pro bono assistance is coming from? All those law firms that agreed to provide pro bono services on his behalf. That's where that's coming from. But also, let's go back, and I want you to look at this word, indemnification. Indemnification. You see, cops don't even need to be indemnified because they already are. When a lawsuit is brought against a cop and it ends up in some money damages, money judgment, etc., their employer pays that money. They don't need further indemnification. And besides, that is the reason why we have worked so hard over the past few years to try to get rid of qualified immunity. Because a lot of these cops know if they bang your head up against the cement, whether it's lawful or not, they know they don't have to come out their pockets. Most likely because qualified immunity will probably get the case kicked out of court. And if not, if they are found guilty or liable or whatever and end up having to pay money, again, their employer will most likely have to pay that money. So they don't need more indemnification here. But believe it or not, it gets worse. The Attorney General, Section 3, and other appropriate heads of executive departments and agencies shall take all appropriate action to maximize the use of federal resources to provide new best practices to state and local law enforcement to aggressively police communities against all crimes. And jump down where I have it highlighted there. Within 60 days of the date of this order, the Attorney General shall review all ongoing federal consent decrees, out-of-court agreements, and post-judgment orders to which a state or local law enforcement agency is a party. And watch this. And modify, rescind, or move to conclude such measures that unduly impede the performance of law enforcement functions. Folks, they're going to get rid of consent decrees, which are agreements between the Justice Department and local police departments that they will not bang black people's heads against the cement and violate their civil rights. Trump is directing his Attorney General, Pam Bundy, to rescind those things, to modify those things.
See that? He's trying to get all those laws taken away so they can just damn near bang your head, give you, treat you like an MMA fight, where they can just jack your ass up and you can't sue.
What is this going to do? This is going to unleash more crazy, violent policing in the black community.
See that? Civil war.
We have worked so hard to try to bring reforms. All the reforms that were done as a result of the George Floyd lynching, he is trying to erase all of that. And you remember he thanked black people for putting him in office again? He thanked them the first time, now he's thanking them a second time.
You Negroes voted for this racist bastard.
And yet, turning around and doing this. Now, have you heard anything about this executive order? You haven't heard a thing about it, most of you. Didn't know it existed. You certainly didn't hear from the pro-black imposters. They're definitely not going to talk about this. This is nothing. Oh, this is a really big deal. This is where the rubber hits the road. But it gets worse. Within 90 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Defense, in cooperation or in coordination with the Attorney General, shall determine how military and national security assets, training, non-lethal capabilities, and personnel can most effectively be utilized to prevent crime. There is something called posse comitatus.
See that? Look at these men. These men are National Guard. And they're going to come and take away your rights.
But obviously, they're going to try to get around that and give them assets. Assets. That means tanks. That means assault rifles, pistols, grenades. This is basically another declaration of war on the African-American community. Why do I harp on the African-American community? Because he did. He told us. He said that most of the crime is occurring in the African-American community. And secondly, African-Americans are pleading with him to bring all this in, despite the fact that violent crime is going down.
Yeah, that's the setup for the okey doke, man. That's a huge setup, man. So like I was saying in the beginning, Trump Trump is licking his chops when he heard this from the so-called black community that they want more police. He's like, oh, you want more police? Oh, I'm about to kill y'all Negroes now.
Not the anecdotes, because we all know and we hear on the evening news that this or that African American youth, this or that African American man was involved in some sort of crime and somebody got killed. That happens far too often. Yes, we understand that. But that is anecdotes. The data says that is decreasing. Here's the data. That is decreasing. Yet he wants to bring in the military. And not just the military, folks, but Homeland Security, Section 6.
See that? Homeland Security is the AKA National Guard. You look this up. It's coming.
Use of Homeland Security Task Force. The Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security shall utilize the Homeland Security Task Force, HSTFS, formed in accordance with Executive Order 14159 of January 20th, 2025, protecting the American people against invasion, to coordinate and advance the objectives of this order. So these African American communities.
Do you want to know where to invest $1,000 right now? Well, forget about AI, quantum computing,
High crime African American communities are now about to experience the wrath of the United States military, Homeland Security, and God knows what other agency. And oh, by the way, don't forget that he told the El Salvadoran government that homegrown criminals would.
See that? Look at this. Hey, hear what he just said? He's going to start taking these homegrown criminals to El Salvador. I don't know if brothers know that already, brothers and sisters know that, but they're already taking these migrants, these Northern Kingdom brothers that's locked up. Come on, look at this is the curses right here. There ain't number Northern Kingdom right here. But the Trump already put out a decree where a lot of these migrants, Northern Kingdom brothers, he take them to El Salvador where they get one of the worst prison penal systems.
Would be next. Don't forget that. Add that to all that you just heard about this executive order. Despite the fact that violent crime is going down.
So that's pretty much it.
It's going down. Mark my words. And sadly, unfortunately.
So you guys can watch this on your own. He's got a lot of good stuff. He's got a lot of good stuff. It's called The Defiant Lawyer, I believe. So, check him out. He gives a lot of, good information on what's going on. The second video, the second video I got is it's just talking about how Trump is, of course, him and Netanyahu, they're in cahoots, but they're trying to come out with a law. Actually, the bill came out, I think, in 2021 or 22, but it didn't reach the House or it didn't reach the Senate, one of those. But they're saying, and they're trying to take away your free speech. If you say anything about these Israelis, these fake Jews, they want to throw you in jail and give you, I believe, a $10,000 fine. If you say anything about anti-Semitic, about being a Jew, if you ever posted something, if you ever written something, anything on YouTube, social media, whatever, they're going to start to throw. And ultimately, this is going to come back to the men of the Lord that's prophesying on the highways and byways and hedges. Brothers doing videos and cold cuts, and they coming for these men. So let's get into it.
Well, I can show you.
Okay.
Ban any BDS boy.
Tesla is finished. Elon has failed. That is what they want you to believe. But tech expert Jeff.
Fact that it didn't.
Fuck you, man. Yeah.
Well, today our Israel First Congress almost voted on a bill to ban boycotting Israel, and it would have levied fines of up to $1 million on American citizens or even 20 years in jail. It is absolutely unbelievable. Well, I would like to say it's unbelievable that they nearly tried to do this to us, but it is unfortunately very believable because so many of them are totally and completely bought off by Israel. Luckily, this bill did not.
You said, I don't know if y'all heard that, but she said this economy is bought off by Israel.
I would like to say it's unbelievable that they nearly tried to do this to us, but it is unfortunately very believable because so many of them are totally and completely bought off by Israel.
See, our government is bought off by Israel. All these fake Jews.
Luckily, this bill did not go onto the floor for a vote, but there's actually some even worse news. I actually would have preferred this bill to go to the floor today for a vote so that we could have gotten a raise of hands, actual votes, yes or no, who supports banning Americans from practicing their First Amendment right of free speech, allowing us the right to boycott a foreign country. It would be nice to get on record which one of these Congress people is totally for Israel and not at all America first. But this bill did not hit the floor for a vote. But it's worse, actually, the fact that it didn't. But I want to show you some things. We're going to break down what this bill actually said, how exactly it would have infringed on your free speech. But first, I want to show you Marjorie Taylor Greene. Boy, I got to say, I'm a big fan of her. She is a true American first that are for our country. And she posts this image, which is the House will vote. Tweeted out, apparently HR 867 has been pulled from the schedule for this week. Thank you for your vocal opposition on this platform. It was a ridiculous bill that our leadership should have never scheduled for a vote. Right, they absolutely never should have scheduled this for a vote. But what's worse is that even though they did not put this bill on the floor today, there are rumors they're going to bake it into a larger bill.
See that? Even though it didn't go into effect, they said she said they're going to bake it into a larger bill. Meaning what? Another bill is going to come along. And that's why I say, hey, hypothetically speaking, it might say something as to where, free tuition or what is something? What can I use? Scholarship money. Well, not scholarship money. Student loans, right? Let's just say no student loans. You don't have to pay student loans back if you take out a student loan. They might say, people might look at it. They might say, no, this is good. What else is in this bill? They might say now, Medicaid or healthcare and all of that is free. But then if you say anything about these Jewish people, then guess what? You're going to get fined and you're going to go to jail for 20 years. Now, the bill, you might be like, oh, man, that's not bad. Free tuition or I don't have to pay financial aid. Oh, man, free health care. But guess what? Your freedom of speech, your First Amendment rights can be taken away. This is what's going on, man. This is what these devils do. Well, let me get a quick precept, man. So, and this is, hey, while you sleeping, while Jake's sleeping and playing video games and tricking off and fornicating, they're devising crafty counsel while you sleeping. Look at this. Let's get it. These devils, they always trying to figure out a way, just like the last video I showed you. They always thinking about somehow how they can overthrow Jake, overthrow the Israelites. And so that's why these people gotta go, man. They gotta go. Because they just wicked. They just think about shit and they sleep to how to overthrow us. Look at this. It says, for they sleep not, except they have done mischief. This is what all of these laws that they're coming up with. If you say anything about being anti-Semitic or, being a Jew, those ain't the real Jews. They want to persecute you. It says, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. Right? So they don't sleep unless they try to find a way for us to fall. It says, for they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. And this is what they do, man. This is exactly what they do. They eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. That's just wicked, man. Weird as hell. That's why the kingdom has to be taken away from these people. Has to. It says when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. And when we're in authority, the people are going to rejoice. That's how the righteous are not in authority right now because people are mourning and hating it. Everybody's trying to move to different countries. It says, but when the wicked bear through, the people mourn. That's why you see a lot of people mourning. A lot of people can't pay their mortgage, rent, don't have jobs, struggling to find jobs, struggling to eat, support a family because the wicked are ruling. And that's why this kingdom has to be translated from one people to another. All right. Let's get back to it. Where's that video? Here we go.
And you know what happens when they do that? They pass it. Yep, they pass it. And what happens when they bake it into a bigger bill? Then the lawmakers get to say, well, there were other things in the bill I really liked. And so, that was a priority for me. And, this was just something that was shoved in there. And, we're not going to let the whole thing
See, there's going to be other things in there, but that they're going to like and it's going to pass.
fail because they just put in these, I don't know, anti-free speech, finding Americans and throwing Americans in jail for boycotting a foreign country. No big deal. They threw that in there because everything else in the bill was great. It's what I wanted. That's what they do to us. They bake these into smaller bills and then we get screwed. So what is in the text of this bill? I'm going to read the bill to you. It's short and it doesn't, it's not clear, when you just read this, it doesn't really give you this like, oh, wow, so I'm not allowed to boycott Israel. It doesn't say it point blank. So we're going to break down exactly how it does say that, how it would have resulted in that consequence of how it will when they bake this into a bigger bill. So it says, it's HR 867 to amend. So this is an amendment to an existing law, which is the Anti-Boycott Act of 2018, which I'll explain what that is, to apply the provisions of that act to international governmental organizations. So the...
You make it through security so fast. The
Anti-Boycott Act of 2018 is a law that says, which is also a law against our free speech, by the way, and it is a law. And so they've already done this to us once. They just want to expand it now. We shouldn't even have the original Anti-Boycott Act of 2018. But what that law does is it says if a foreign country says we should boycott, the bill specifically says if a foreign country engages or calls for a boycott or a protest or something of a American ally, a friendly or some like an American friendly, what is the exact word that they use? Let me see. Hold on here. What's the exact phrase they use? Because they don't say American ally. I think they just say, well, I guess I don't have that exact one in front of me, but it says something about, whether to an American friendly or American ally. So if a government calls for the boycott of an American ally and you boycott that country because the government of this foreign country, so let's say China says we should all boycott the UK. And, this only applies to Israel, by the way. We don't care if anybody boycotts the UK or Canada or anything else. We don't care. But if they boycott Israel, down you go. So, okay, let's just use a fair example. So if Turkey or or Egypt, or Saudi Arabia, whoever, let's say Iran calls for the boycotting of Israel, and you then boycott Israel, they then could throw you in jail or fine you. Now you might say, well, I can't. A lot of people are boycotting Israel, and maybe Iran's calling for the boycott of Israel, but I'm not going to jail. I don't know if actually Iran's called for the boycott of Israel. I would assume they have, though, but if the government wants to go after you, they can, using this law. They could say, well, you once tweeted out.
That's crazy. She said, if you tweet out anything, the government can come after you.
In your tweets that Iran was boycotting Israel. They don't have to actually prove motive. They just have to have a plausible connection to the motive. They don't actually have to prove motive in court. So all they have to do is say, you once tweeted out, you retweeted Iran saying that they were boycotting Israel. And then, 3 years later, you boycotted Israel. We have reason to believe that you did it because the foreign country told you to. And that would be it. That's enough. That's all they have to do. Okay? That's it. That's it. So now with this new bill that they tried to pass, they were trying to expand it from foreign countries, which is already bad enough. You should be allowed to boycott Israel, whether Iran says so or not, whether China says so or not. You should be allowed to boycott Israel. If here's a better example. If Ireland calls for a boycott of Israel, you should be allowed to without the government saying, you know what, I see that you're 14% Irish, according to Ancestry.com. And you boycotted Israel. You must have been doing it because you were following Ireland, because Ireland said to boycott Israel. They could actually throw you in jail for that, or they could actually fine you for that. Just for that. All they have to have is like enough causal evidence. So this bill says, it's real quick and short. We'll go over who's sponsoring it. A bunch of pro-Israel, Israel First Congress people that are not working on behalf of the American people. So the bill is to amend the Boycott Act of 2018. It says, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, this act may be cited as the IGO Anti-Boycott Act, Section 2, Amendments to the Anti-Boycott Act of 2018. The Anti-Boycott Act of 2018 is amended as follows in Section 1772 by inserting or international governmental organization after foreign country, each place it appears. So in the original, it says foreign country boycott, foreign country, blah, 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 foreign country. Now they want to do foreign country or international governmental organization each time foreign country. So what is an international governmental organization? That would be the UN, that would be the EU, that would be like the Arab League, it'd be the World Trade Organization, it would be the IMF. Like the UN says, we all must boycott Israel because they're committing a genocide. And you then boycott Israel because they're committing a genocide. All they have to do is prove causal link. So all they'd have to do is look through your social media account and see that you were retweeting the ICC criminal case against Israel, and that you then maybe liked a tweet that said the ICC calls for boycott of Israel, and then you boycott Israel.
See, even if you like a tweet about boycotting Israel, if you're against Israel, and look at this. They're trying to take away free speech, your First Amendment rights. That's Amos 8. Let's get that. Come on, man. Hey, these are the times that the Lord. Hey, we should be rejoicing in these times, man. Because, you read these prophecies, he's letting you know that we're on our way out of here. These are strong indications that, us like that's not proper. That's Amos getting excited. It says, behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. And look, we see that. We see that. Come on now. We see this right now.
Israel, that's all they need. That's all they need to prove causality. They probably could use less than that. They probably could just say, well, you cheered on the ICC going after Israel for genocide, and now you're boycotting, and the ICC is also boycotting. And since you like the ICC, that's enough to go after you for $1 million and prison. Even if you were to win in court, you'd have to battle it out. How much is that going to cost you? That would ruin your life. Just them going after you alone is enough to ruin your life. And they know that.
And this is what's going to happen. Our lives are about to be ruined. And that's how this is, that's going to be the end. Again, that was second Esdras 16 and 70. But it just, they're going to come in and ruin our life and try to him us up, take us to jail, take us to these concentration camps. And that's going to be the end. It's going to be it. And we see this is prophecy, man. This is happening.
And that's all they need. They just need a deterrent. They just need to deter you from boycotting Israel. That's all they need to do in order for them to win, because they know that the consequences would be too great.
So once this law goes into effect, it's a wrap. It's over with.
Great. Even if you win in court, you'd still have to suffer all those consequences. So it goes on to say, in section 1773, in the matter preceding subparagraph, by inserting or international governmental organization after foreign country. Oh, sorry. They just list all the areas where they're going to insert that in, which is like 3 different areas. And they also said in section 1773, by adding at the end the following annual report, the president shall submit to Congress and make available to the public on an annual basis. A report contains a list of foreign countries and international organizations that foster or impose boycotts, and with respect to which this section applies, and a description of those boycotts. So they want an annual list of which foreign countries, which intergovernmental organizations or international governmental organizations are calling for the boycott, and what boycott they're specifically calling for. They want that list sent off to be submitted every year for Congress, and to be made available to the public. That way they could say in court, well, we had it on a list somewhere. They posted obscurely somewhere where you can't find it. And they say, well, we had it on the list. And so you should have known. And now they want to throw you in jail for 20 years. Child molesters don't even get that long in jail. That's how much they love Israel in Congress. That's how much they love Israel. So let me show you how much they love Israel. Here's Mike Lawler. This is the main author of this ridiculous bill. And you can see he's in the pocket. He owes Israel a lot because they've given him, the AIPAC lobby has given him over $684,000. So he's got many reasons. In fact, I've got a big list of the names of the people who co-sponsored this bill and how much they've taken.
You pretty much get the gist of it. You know what's going on. Again, these are the times that we're living in. This is just so this is a video talking about how there's going to be a lot of storehouses closing. You already see a lot of things are closing. Jobs are being shut down. This is all prophecy. But again, she's talking about hospitals are being shut down. I mean, what people are going to get stitched up at? So let me see that damn hospital closing. Shrinking insurance reimbursement. Wow. It's like it had all of this health cuts. Uh, these like clinical people that would get back in the early 2000s. Hey, if you was a nurse or practitioner or NA or a registered nurse, whatever, hey, you was guaranteed, man. This is your job wasn't going to be lost. Now look at it. Now look at the Trump administration. Nurses are being laid off. Doctors. There's major healthcare layoffs here in San Diego. Through the executive pay cut at Sharp Healthcare about 50%. You're about to see a lot of cuts, man. This economy is about to get. Look at East Ohio Regional Hospital has officially closed its doors. I mean, it goes on and on and on. In the hospital. Oh man, I forget. There was one in particular that 11 healthcare closures. I mean, hey, it's a lot more. Another one. Hospital system closing, layoffs, closures, and a healthcare system in free fall. I mean, so as you can see, it keeps just, and she's on, what is this? I think this is TikTok. You can look her up, and she gives a lot of the information. Layoffs in trucking, right? Layoffs in the trucking industry. The trucking industry experienced a wave of layoffs and furlough, particularly in the freight sector. And this is recent. Let's get a couple scriptures. What is that precept? on there. Ecclesiastes, I think it's either 10 and 3 or 12. Ecclesiastes 12 and 3 says, "In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble." Like, who are the keepers of the house? This administration, so-called the Edomites that control everything. It's saying the strong men shall bow themselves and the grinders cease, meaning the work is going to stop because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. So when you look out of your windows, you look into your future. You think about your 401k, your pension. Hey, it's going to be dark. It's going to be grim because all of that's going to be obsolete. It's going to be gone. It's going to be vanished. It says, "And the door shall be shut in the streets." Again, no more work. We're seeing this. When the sound of the grinding is low, you shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. So all these damn, police sirens and ambulances, the music that you hear, all of the people, Jake like to have the music rattling, and Northern Kingdom like to have the music bussing and mariachi going, and hey, that stuff is about to be shut down. The Lord's about to shut all this shit down. Right? There's They had a day without power in Portugal, Spain. The lights went out. So lights went out. Hey, so EMP attacks are coming as well. I mean, it was only for 12 hours, but hey, imagine a whole day, a whole month, a whole week without having power. Um, let's see. Citibank also had an outage. So these things, man, we ain't got that much time left. So this outage happened, I believe, back in April, where the bank, Citibank, they were without power. Damn. So Citibank suffering an outage, 1.6 trillion, 200 million affected, 200 million customers had issues. His clients unable to access their online banking app. So I mean, hey, this is just a few to show you, hey man, the things that are going on in this world, man, it's getting real dark, it's getting real grim. And if you're not under the umbrella of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, then you're gonna be down. What is that precept? Oh, you can't. Look at Job chapter 18, verse 5. Going back to these outages, he said, "Yea, the light of the wicked shall be put out, and the spark of his fire shall not shine. The light shall be dark in his tabernacle, and his candle shall be put out with him." So the Lord is saying, "Hey man, his lights, the lights that light everything up in this Esau's America and this kingdom. And guess what? You got to see it get dark. Again, that's you already been hear about these cyber wars that might come from China. Let's see if I can look that up. Cyber wars from China. Job 18 and 5. Yeah, they got cyber. I think cyber wars with China. Says China is actively involved in cyber warfare. You see, there's something about that. Let's see. Yeah, the U.S. and China are engaged in an escalating cycle, with China increasingly targeting critical U.S. infrastructure and government systems. This includes the development of malware by groups like Volt Typhoon, the breaching of telecom networks, and the targeting of government officials and data. These actions are viewed as part of a broader strategy by China to disrupt U.S. responsibilities in future conflicts, particularly over Taiwan. So guess what? EMP attacks are coming. Hey, whether it's hot or cold, or not having no electricity or no air, imagine not having no air in 90 degrees, 100 plus in the summertime. Or imagine not having no heat. Um, Imagine not having no heat in the wintertime when you freeze and cold and your pipes freeze. So again, these dark days are right over our head, and it's coming. And one last precept, and then get to bed. Like the book of Proverbs 24:20. But there shall be no reward to the evil man. The candle of the wicked shall be put out. Again, for there shall be no reward to the evil man. The candle of the wicked shall be put out. So the Lord is going to knock these lights out. To forget anything else. I think that's it. I got a couple more videos, but I'll share them next time. But Lord willing, this video was edifying. Till next time, shalom.